What it do? Oh man, listen. Today, I got a very different type of video for you. It's not entirely about Tacticus, however, I will talk about Tacticus later in the video. This video is mostly about appreciating 40k content, and for people who play Tacticus, however, those who do not engage with Warhammer 40,000 other mediums. I want to put forth some Warhammer 40,000 content that I think is a good starting point for players. With that being said, let's get right into the first one. The first one is the web series Astartes. Now, this was a multi-part fan animation made by, I'm blanking on the name, I do apologize about that. They were so good at making this animation that Games Workshop actually hired them to make content for Warhammer Plus. I think the original video has been taken down. However, there are many compilation videos in the sense that they combine all the episodes together into one, big video. So you can watch this. I do think it is extremely enjoyable. It's a great point for starting 40k content. Personally, I already knew Warhammer 40,000. My friends used to play it, and I knew about it. However, watching Astartes really got that feeling in me where I was like, oh, it's pretty cool, right? So that's why it's the first one. I really appreciate it. I think if you guys watch it, you will also appreciate it. Speaking of YouTube content, If Emperor Had Text-to-Speech is a animated series made by Bruva Alpha Brusa. I am sorry about butchering your name. I do apologize for that. It is a multi-part web series where essentially the premise of it is a custodian, one of the Emperor's guard, gives the Emperor a text-to-speech device, and they go on all sorts of adventures and whatnot. It is pretty entertaining. Unfortunately, it got discontinued because of the cease and assist that Games Workshop did when Warhammer Plus rather was launching. So it didn't get a proper finale. However, there's like 50 videos and they are all incredibly entertaining. I did put the YouTube channel, as you can see. He does make other content. I do think the other content is really cool. However, for 40,000 purposes, I think text-to-speech is, one of, if not the best content on YouTube for Warhammer 40,000. Now, if we jump to books, Infinite and the Divine is a book about Necrons. I did mention it previously in the channel when I was talking about Necrons. It's a very good read. I personally, I do like reading. Wow, Draupnir, what a nerd. He reads books on his free time for fun. Wow, what a loser. I mean, I do read a lot. And I do read like books that are often not very fluid. However, Infinite and the Divine is a very good read. It is a fast read. It really flows. Personally, I finished it in like a day. I don't think it's gonna get finished in a day, but that's not like a normal experience, but it's a good book. And if you don't like reading, I do understand that, maybe you don't have the time, maybe you simply don't enjoy the act of reading. There are many audiobooks online, and it's like they are all amazing. I think this is both funny, at some parts emotional, especially that garden scene, the ash box scene. If you read it, you'll understand. And so it's a good book. I think it's a great point to start reading. People often suggest reading the Eisenhorn books. They're also great. However, I think Infinite and the Divine is significantly more digestible. It's just a one and done thing. For video games, Space Marine 2 is out. It's having a great success. A lot of people are playing it, so I'm not gonna just say play Space Marine 2 because you're probably doing it, maybe, who knows. But Bolt Gun, it's essentially if Doom Guy was a Space Marine, where you're playing Doom, but you're a You're a space marine, and personally, I really like it. It really has that old game feel. It's so cool that you can just run. It's great. You know, you just rip and tear. My friends and I started playing. My only complaint is the lack of co-op, but it's a great game. You're just a one-man army ripping and tearing. Malium Kaido in a ceramite ball. Anyway, sorry. Rogue Trader. Now, this is a very similar game, from my understanding, to Baldur's Gate 3. My friends who I play tabletop with, they were playing this and they were saying, "Hey, Draupnir, you gotta play it. This is a great game." So they had nothing but nice things to say about it. And from my understanding, it's very enjoyable if you like lore. In, Inquisitors and rogue traders are great places to engage the lore with, because if you're just reading a Space Marine story, you're essentially going to read Space Marine and then the enemy. Whereas for rogue traders and inquisitors, it's more like, hey, you're going to engage with multiple different parts of the Warhammer 40,000 world. Just from this image, there's a Space Wolf, there is a Sister of Battle, there's a Psyker. This is probably the Rogue Trader, I assume. This is a Psyker from the Guard, probably. This is an craft world, I assume, because of the green robes and the gun. And these are Drukhari. I do know of the final boss and some interesting stuff, but I will not spoil them because it will be better if you enjoy it for yourself. Now, I did mention the Infinite and the Divine. However, I did want to talk about a few books. Now, there are so many books in the Black Library, and just for context, Black Library, I'm not referring to Black Library in the lore, Black Library as in the Warhammer's collection of books. Okay, that's, I can't believe I have to say that. Now, there are a lot of good books. However, I'm not saying these are the best, but these are my favorites. I really like Devastation of Baal by Guy Haley. This is essentially where the hive mind decides they just don't like blood angels in particular and just devastate the planet. It's so fun. Kind of spoiled it, sorry. Crusade by Andy Clark. I do like it. It's a good read. It's not as bombastic as other books, maybe. However, I do think it's a solid book. A solid 40k book and a solid book in general. I also really appreciate all of the Arcs of Woman books. These got released towards the end of 9th edition, and I think they were some of the best content we've had in a little bit. I specifically like the Vashtor and Farsight books, because Arcs of Woman is divided into multiple sections, where it's Arcs of Woman Vashtor, Arcs of Woman Farsight, Arcs of Woman Lion. Personally, I'm a big fan of Vashtor and Farsight. The lore bits are really entertaining. And for those of you who are more interested in the Horus Heresy, maybe 30,000, The Prince of Crows by Aaron Bowden is a good book. It mostly focuses on Night Hunters, not Night Hunters, sorry, Night Lords. Night Hunter is the guy's name, or title rather. Where this is enjoyable. I do like it because Night Lords essentially get relegated to, I skin people alive and I, broadcast the screams of children, and that's kind of all they do. And so when in the book it shows you that, hey, that's not all they do, I do like it a lot. Now, so about Tacticus, this kind of works in the other way, whereas everything I said is hey, if you like Tacticus and the Warhammer 40,000 world, you will like the books. Whereas this part of the video, this is very short, just, a little bit, where if you like 40,000, personally, as you know, I'm a big fan of 40k, I play hundreds of games of tabletop, unhealthy amounts, I, read the books, I really like it. And if you like 40k, I genuinely think Tacticus is made by people who have a good understanding of Warhammer 40,000 and tabletop specifically. It's the very small, minute details that really pop out. For example, and this is the tiniest things. Revus's passive being the Cyclic Ion Blaster. Now, Cyclic Ion Blaster has 3 hits on tabletop and 3 hits in Tacticus, so like stuff like that. Mortarion hates Psychers, so in the guild raid as a boss, he aggressively goes after Psychers. Eggstor Row is a Scarian Ruststalker, and they do benefit from being around Skitarii on tabletop. And one of the best enablers for Eggstor Row is Gida, who summons Skitarii. Death Guard Contagion Auras expanding over time, right? It's a very 9th edition, 10th edition thing. I really do appreciate it. Stacking is a good gameplay thing. It doesn't happen in tabletop, but it is what it is. And the ability names and events being taken directly from codexes and Warhammer 40,000 lore, I really love it. Now, this is much more obscure because not a lot of people play Crusade in 40k. Crusade is essentially narrative mode. I think it's a few months back at this point, there was an offer, a weekly free offer, I think, called The Lion and the Wolf. And it refers to the relationship and the rivalry between the Lion and Leman Russ, like the Space Wolves and the Dark Angels. And the naming convention was literally just taken from the 9th edition, I think Space Wolves or Dark Angels, I think Dark Angels Codex, where like it's a Crusade part, it's just right there, Lion and the Wolf, and they get like, anyway, it's just stuff like that. I do think Tacticus becomes significantly more enjoyable if you play the tabletop, so you can appreciate all the small things they actually do in the game. Whereas like I mentioned Karn in a previous video, where hey, if you don't play tabletop, Karn is just what it is. But if you play tabletop, Karn is not an amalgamation, that's a bad word, I'm blanking on it, I apologize for that. Karn is a culmination of 8th edition, 9th edition, and 10th edition rules put together into one cohesive character where it really represents the identity of the character, despite the fact that 10th edition has not been kind to character identities and role leaders specifically. Anyways, with that being said, go engage with some 40k content, go earlier in the video. I think the YouTube videos will be very enjoyable. I really like them. I think you will too. Thank you much for watching the video. I appreciate the fact that you're giving me the time of day. My refer friend code is in the middle of the screen. If you want to enter it, you get 100 Blackstone shards. It's a great way to support the channel. However, you can only enter one person's refer friend code. So make sure I am the guy you want to enter. If you want to enter another content creator, if you like them more, you should absolutely enter their refer friend code over mine. With all that being said, thank you very much for watching the video. Have a great day and stay safe.